I bet this is going to be real good. Oh, boy. Here we go.
Well, the war in Gaza has incensed communities across the world. Many Jewish people say they don't feel safe on the streets of Western cities. Many Muslims feel the horror facing innocent Palestinians is treated only as a second-class concern. As with any emotive cause, a lot of people with no...
I don't know why Muslims wouldn't think it's not a concern. I feel like that's what happens to Muslims happened to Muslims after September 11th. I feel like this is just the same shit again. And the same with Asians during COVID.
The fight have molded this crisis into a familiar battle of good versus evil, oppressors versus oppressed. Hysterical scenes at some of America's top universities this week have generated more coverage and commentary than the war itself the last 2 weeks. Columbia says that all in-person classes are now cancelled until the end of the semester. Arrests have been made.
What? That's insane!
...for the last 2 weeks. Columbia says that all in-person classes are now cancelled until the end of the semester. Arrests have been made at encampments outside NYU and Yale. Well, one notable Jewish professor at Columbia shared a video of Muslims praying as if it was a shocking assault on US values. Many badly informed...
Wow. Please share to let the world know. Yes, guys, the First Amendment is working. That's crazy.
Many badly informed pro-Palestine demonstrators, meanwhile, have called for an intifada and chanted, "We love Hamas." Others believe that synchronized dancing is a long-lost secret to peace in the Middle East. Well, these people are all spending $80,000 a year on tuition. But clearly many of them haven't found Wikipedia, and this virtue-signaling fever is now emboldening a growing number of people to confront public figures. There's simply no connection to the war. This was New York Mayor Eric Adams, berated for supporting genocide as he took his seat on a flight.
Hey, Eric Adams? Yeah.
Bro, this guy. Look at his face. He's like, ah, shit. Are you fucking kidding me?
You support the genocide in Palestine. There are homeless people all over New York. You're always partying. You don't actually care about the citizens of New York. People cannot afford food. You keep cutting the education budget so you can fund the police.
Here's the point I would make to you. A lot of people think a lot of these protesters at universities in America are performative. The ones who are chanting their support.
They absolutely are. Most of the people that are at the protests probably don't even understand what they're protesting for. But that's not anything that's unique to Palestine. I think that people thought that. There were probably people that showed up for a lot of protests that don't know what they're fucking talking about. I've seen so many interviews with protesters, and it's like, why do you think this should happen? And they don't even know what they're talking about. That's all of them. It's nothing, like, Palestine isn't special.
For Hamas, the ones who are chanting about intifada and pretending it's not about a violent uprising. I mean, do you accept that a lot of that is not only performative, but public demonstration of support for terrorism?
Absolutely not. I don't think that... I mean, all protests are technically performative, obviously, but there's a very clear-cut goal for the group of students at Columbia and many other universities. I was in Melbourne not that long ago, and I attended a Palestinian protest there, a Palestinian rally there.
He's going to bring up the Starbucks
cup. Were also demanding the exact same thing, that they divest, their colleges divest from a lot of the companies that are aligned with the state of Israel, a lot of the companies that are directly involved in operations in the West Bank, a lot of the companies that are playing a role in the regular maintenance of the apartheid regime of Israel and helping Israel conduct an ethnic cleansing campaign. That is the ultimate goal. That is why they're trying to very clearly cause a little bit of a disruption and engage.
Yeah, if they're causing a little bit of a disruption to where they have to close the schools, though, that's not really a good thing. I feel like really nobody is complaining about protests that are happening whenever they're peaceful and they're not disruptive and they don't destroy property. Like, that's what I said even earlier today with, like, the Austin protests. There seemed to be nothing wrong with those protests at all. But, like, whenever you go outside of your bubble of freedom and you go inside somebody else's and destroy their life, destroy their content, destroy their property, or make it hard for them to go about their daily life, you are no longer a protester, you are a harasser, and in a lot of cases, you are a criminal. That's not the same thing.
But are you comfortable? Okay, but are you comfortable?
The most American thing you can do.
It's not a protest if it's not disruptive. Well, if it's disruptive, then it's not a protest either. Then it's a crime.
With the ones who are seen chanting support for Hamas or chanting about intifada.
I understand you like to say these little, like, what do you call it? These, like, little quotes and stupid shit like that. Two can play at that game. It's very easy. Like, you clearly don't believe what you clearly don't think what you believe in. Because if this was ever reflected back to you, you would be crying about it. Nobody really believes that.
I am perfectly comfortable with people chanting about the intifada. As far as the Hamas thing goes, any kind of protest is always going to have a litany of random people, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. You have to look at the actual tangible goals that...
Hasan is right about that, though, is that every single protest is going to be a magnet for bad actors, and there are going to be extremes. I think the problem is that the people that are, like, pro-Palestine have done a very bad job distancing themselves from the legitimate terrorists. I think that, and this is the problem, right, is that a lot of times people don't want to directly call out, these people are terrorists, they're bad, what they're doing is bad, and that's all there is to it. And I feel like that's also a reaction to Israel not acknowledging anything that they've done as bad. That's the issue. They did a good job. Media's misrepresenting them. I mean, I don't know. Like, I watched the October 6th, the 7th stuff, and they went and just killed a bunch of people. And, like, I don't think that's good. I feel like that's really bad. And so, like, the people that support that are also really bad. I mean, it's really not that complicated. I mean, if you're launching missiles into a city just randomly, no, I'm not going to act like this is being a freedom fighter. You're going to blow up somebody's house. What the fuck? No, that's insane.
The protest movement is stating they're interested in. And I think that those goals, and I think you will agree with me on this, Piers, I think those goals are pretty valid overall. Yeah. I think that they want to, one, recenter the attention to the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza, and two, demand that their tuition dollars do not go to operations in Israel. I don't know.
I think that's extremely fair, and they have every right to protest that, but they don't have a right to destroy people's property and shut down the school. That's a totally different thing. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Like, yeah, of course they have every right to protest that. That's a good thing.
If you're aware of this, but there's a campus. There's going to be a sister campus that is being built in Tel Aviv right now for Columbia University. Mm-hmm. This means that Columbia University, which once housed the likes of the late great Edward Said and many others, and that currently has many Palestinian students who pay tuition for projects such as this one, will not be able to go to that sister campus. I find that abhorrent. But it's everyday existence in Israel.
Let me bring in Emily. You've been listening to all this. Your response?
With all due respect, Hasan, why do you feel that Columbia, or any college for that matter, owes you to divest from Israel? Why do you think your opinion is correct? Because so far, I heard the classic buzzwords: apartheid, discriminatory, ethnic cleansing, and genocide, which is funny because it's all the exact...
Well, they're not accountable, but I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't voice your opinion. Like, everybody has a right to their opinion. It doesn't mean that they have to do it, but to put yourself out there, like, that's okay.
Opposite. So if I may ask you, what about Israel is apartheid? You also just said the students in Israel, the campus in Israel would not allow Palestinians to join. Are you confused, or do you know nothing about the country of Israel? Because let me remind you, Jews are not allowed in the West Bank and Gaza. However, Arabs have full Israeli citizenship, have the rights, are members of the Knesset, which is the equivalence of, you can think of Congress, and even prosecuted a former Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, an Arab judge. So what apartheid exactly are you speaking about? What genocide? What ethnic cleansing? And secondly, how dare you say it's okay to talk about an intifada? Let me remind you, the intifada last time it happened in Israel consisted of thousands of people dying in bus bombings. So are you saying that you support terrorism and killing innocent people?
Well, intifada simply just means revolution, and I'm an American.
I think that I think that Hasan and a lot of the people that are like pro-Palestine are doing themselves like a massive disservice by not just immediately condemning things that hurt civilians. I think it like massively hurts their platform. I don't know why that I don't like whenever I think about it, like I don't really see how this is beneficial. I don't like he supports it. Well, the thing is, like, if you support that, then you shouldn't be surprised whenever the other people support the same thing, right? And I think it's actually like it's doing way more harm than good. Because I think that a lot of people, like an average person, just like an average, undecided person, they hear about a lot of bus bombings, and then the other person doesn't immediately say that's really bad. That seems very sus. And I think it alienates a lot of like middle of the road average people. And I think it even alienates people that are at least a little bit extreme.
Well, intifada simply just means revolution, and I'm an American, and in 1776,
violent
we did
revolution.
one of those, and it was pretty fucking good. Yeah. What do you think? The American?
Okay.
Do you think the American Revolution was a tickle party?
Hiroshima.
Of course not.
We also bombed Hiroshima.
Don't. Yeah, I know, and that was also unjust and unimaginably cruel. But of course, the Israel Defender is also defending.
We didn't go over to England and kill civilians in England. We didn't do that. Like, that's not what happened.
When it fits your narrative,
civilians and killing them by the hundreds of thousands. Now listen, let's get back.
But when it goes against
refocus the conversation
it's
to the points that you made. Let's refocus the conversation to the points that you made.
Okay, look,
you said,
just to remind everybody,
about?
I'm actually moderating this, but that's an interesting point that Emily just raised, Hasan. It does seem that you're very selective about the violence that you support. That when you support it, it's justified. When other people use things in a violent way that you don't support, it's unjustified.
I think this is fair criticism. And I think that it's not really Hasan specifically. I think this is a problem with the entire group. And I think that they have a really hard time removing extremists out of their group. And like, I mean, conservatives have this same problem, right? Where it's like, you'll see like a Trump rally or like a big conservative rally, and there'll be like a few Nazis or like a few like, like bad actors, maybe not Nazis, white supremacists, something like that. And so it is the responsibility of that group to try to distance themselves from those extreme bad actors. A few? Yeah, sure, there's a few. I mean, Nick, is this one of the people that's like every conservative is a white supremacist? Sure, think whatever you want, right? That's the same side as somebody who thinks that every Palestine supporter is a terrorist. Like, it's retarded, it's not based in any reason or logic, and you don't actually believe this, nobody believes this. And so, anyway, getting back to reality, I think that it really, really alienates a lot of people whenever the obvious bad actor extremists are not just being immediately kicked out. People like Crackhead Barney immediately kick them out. It's not even a question. If you're celebrating or saying that, like 9/11 was good, or, like this is what they had to do, just stop. They have to distance themselves from that. And I think it's really hurting their public perception. I think it's hurting the public perception of Palestinian activists everywhere. And I think it keeps happening. And I think the reason why it's happening is that These people believe so strongly about their issue that they think that they can do anything in order to achieve their goal because it's the morally right thing to do, because of how bad they think that their opponents are. And I understand that. I get it. But at the same time, I don't agree with that. I think that's bad. Like, if you're a fucking terrorist and you're killing people, you're bad. If Israel does it, it's bad. If Palestine does it, it's bad. There should be no beating around the bush with this. Why are we even having a conversation about it? If somebody, like, I feel like if you're not willing to just, like, straight up admit that, I don't know what the fuck to say.
Seems like it's all skewed to what Hassan Piker thinks.
Well, not necessarily just what I think. I think that there are obvious markers, obvious boundaries. I don't think violence against civilians is justified. I have talked about October 7 on this very same show, saying that it was a tragedy. It was atrocities that occurred on October 7 specifically. When you target civilians in any capacity, I think that that is unacceptable. However, this does not mean that violence will not occur in many circumstances. Violence has occurred in every...
I don't know why you don't just lead out with that. Like, you should just said that at the beginning. Because he's absolutely right. He's totally right. And he's also right about saying, however, violence will happen. Because, like, that's true.
Single revolutionary action.
Yeah, he's right.
Many good revolutionary actions. Obviously, America bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with an atom bomb. That was not a very
was what
good
Hamas did on
moment
October
for
the 7th.
anybody. It was not a very good moment for human civilization at all.
Was what Hamas did on October the 7th? Was what Hamas did on October the 7th an example of what you would call a justified revolution?
I don't look at every single act of violence. I look at
You've literally just been reciting a whole load of them.
Systems of oppression.
Why are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding?
This is the thing. Why do this? Why do that? Why do I don't understand? Why do this?
It's over the 7th.
You do it too.
No, I don't.
I'm not avoiding it. I've talked about it a million times.
Well, let me ask you one more time.
Hang on. This is not what we're here to discuss.
Emily, hang on.
This is not what we're here to discuss.
Let me just ask you. Let me just ask you directly one more time. Let me ask you one more time. Do you believe what happened on October the 7th was a justified act of revolution? Yes or no?
I do not, and I do think that. Oh, wait, hold on. That's let me clarify.
Oh no, you had it. Fuck.
Let me clarify something very important here. Events that unfolded on October 7 were atrocities. That much is clear.
Yes.
Those atrocities could have been avoided if Israel was not an apartheid regime. Israel has been an apartheid regime for 75 years.
Apartheid regime?
In the
because
early,
you keep repeating that.
no, you can't just chime in. You can't just chime in. You ask me a question. You want it?
Why
you ask me a question.
An
I'm going to give you an answer.
I mean, to an extent, he's probably right with that. Israel is fucking with Palestine. The Palestinians don't like them. And so this is a reaction. It's not, I mean, to be fair, it's not like the October 7th. Well, there were no conflicts before, in Israel and Palestine before October 7th. And then one day, Palestine and then the Fire Nation attacked. No, I don't think that's what happened. Of course, there's going to be a cause and effect. Of course.
Because you're repeating
Israel
these lies.
has been an apartheid regime since
please.
its inception. Until 1967, Israel was an apartheid regime for the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs, as you called them. There was a two-tier criminal justice system. They were subjected to the military court processes and not the civil court processes until 1967. After 1967, they got citizenship. There are obviously still many different social issues that pertain to the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the Arabs that are living in Israel, those who are not Jewish, of course. However, Israel currently is occupied.
Somebody says, then why did they target civilians and not a military base? The reason why is actually very simple. It's because they're terrorists. Yeah, that's why. It's actually a super simple answer. That's what that's what they do.
The West Bank.
Yeah.
There are more than 2 million Palestinians that live in the West Bank. Israel's illegally occupying the West Bank. There are checkpoints. There are license plates that restrict Palestinian travel. the Israeli operations in the West Bank have destroyed Palestinian statehood. Now, of course, all of this is readily available for those who want to learn about it, yourself included. I hope you look it up. B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization which declared Israel to be an apartheid regime in 2021, in the April of 2021. Amnesty International declared Israel to be an apartheid regime.
Let me, before I move, hang on. Before I just want to bring in our two British panelists here, but just finally, just to clarify, Hasan, I can't quite work out whether you said you do think October the 7th was an unjustified act of revolution or whether you changed your mind. So can you clarify?
I think that
come on.
Violent means of maintaining an apartheid.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Why?
Is inevitably going to yield violent retaliation.
So
this
was it
is
justified?
Something that is completely avoidable.
Was it justified?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hasan?
Hang on, Emily.
Hang
on, Emily.
You look Hirsch
Emily,
Goldberg, Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this person's mother in the eyes.
Oh God. The thing is that what I find to be so frustrating about this is that what Hasan is saying isn't really wrong. Yeah, if you fuck with people for a long time and they hate you, there's eventually going to be a negative reaction. It's like he's giving a reason, but he's acting like it's an excuse. Like, at least like that's the, I don't know, like that, maybe that's not what he's trying to say, but that's definitely the way it comes off as. It's a ticking time bomb. Yeah. It's not justified, but it's inevitable. Exactly. Yeah.
And you tell him that this was justified.
Oh my God.
You tell him his arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying.
Palestinians who are made of identity.
About? It just, if you're not going to respect me and
think
listen
that
to what
we're
I have to
occupying
say,
the West
which, by the way,
Bank?
of course you don't
occupied
respect.
Gaza.
Oh, if you talk
Look
over
what
each other,
happened.
nobody can
I'll
hear
just
you.
keep
I
speaking
just
over
want to
you.
give,
That's what
think.
you
It's
do.
not
I just want to
think.
give
It's not I
Hasan.
think. It's the entire
Hasan,
world. No.
No, it is you
Okay?
think.
It's
Hang
the
on.
entire
Only
world
thing that
Emily,
promotes
please.
your narrative.
Bring crackhead Barney back.
Let me handle this, Emily. Hasan, just before I come to the two people who are with me here, I just need some clarity here because it seems like you're dancing around whether you think October the 7th was justified or not.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this back and forth masturbation? I've already given you my
Piers,
fucking
why are you
position.
doing this?
I'm
He's
sick and
happy.
tired
It's
of
Jews
repeating it
being
over and over
killed.
again.
Okay, I just
Because it's Jews, it's okay.
Ask this
Emily,
demon
stop
next to
talking.
me
It's
wearing
Emily,
a fucking
come back
IDF
to you.
dog
Only
tag.
when it's Jews, it's okay.
Please
Ask
stop
this
shouting
fucking
at each
demon next
other.
to me wearing an IDF dog tag.
He could see himself, and he realized he was pointing in the wrong direction. I guarantee fucking to you because I do that on my stream.
If she actually thinks Israel's
No,
actions are
bring them
justifiable,
home.
Yeah.
do you
It's
see
to
me
bring the
rocking the
hostages
fucking
home. The hostages
All right,
that you
you're talking
rightly
over each
believe
other.
belong in
All
the
right.
You know what it
tunnels
is.
of Gaza.
I'm going to
know
give you
why
two.
it looks
I'm going to
that
let
way.
you two
That is
calm
the
down.
same
It's
as
pointless.
IDF
We
tag.
cannot hear you when you talk over each other.
Troll people.
Every time recently, I have someone
Okay.
from both sides
I'm wearing
on.
this
Like
to
it goes
troll
like
people.
this.
I'm wearing this rusty necklace.
Please,
because
can you
there are
listen to
200
me,
Israeli
Emily?
civilians
Yeah.
in Gaza
All right,
right now.
can you
as
stop
hostages.
doing this to each other, please?
Emily,
Nobody
Emily,
can
Emily,
understand a
can you
word
condemn the
either of
actions
you are
of
saying.
Israel?
Now let me come to Esther and James here. This is one of my problems.
No, I want to
actually.
hear if Emily condemns
No,
the
no,
actions
Hasan-
of Israel.
Here we go. Holy shit, man.
You asked
Please
her
let me
about that.
moderate the
What
debate.
did you ask her about?
I don't condemn
30,000
the idea.
people
I've got two
killed.
panelists here who've not had a word yet.
Exactly, 'cause you're a
they
fucking
kidnap
terrorist.
Please stop
civilians from their
talking.
homes. And I think you're a terrorist.
Emily.
And I think you're a terrorist as well.
Okay. Well, I'm not the one wearing.
Because
I'm
until
not
the
one
hostages
wearing
are home-
Do you know what the problem is? It's that if either one of them let the other person talk, people would post the clip of the other person talking on Twitter and be like, wow, they don't even know what to say. Because I remember seeing that on like the, there was CatDany debated with this guy I think his name was like Finkelstein or some shit like this. And this dude just goes like and roasts the fucking shit out of Destiny. And Destiny sat there and let him talk. And then everybody cut the clip after he got done talking. And they were like, wow, Destiny sure is stupid. It's like, oh my God. Twitter clips, man. And this is what happens. Yeah, and it's not even proportional. It doesn't even make sense. It's so bad.
Don't expect the war to be over.
Yeah, I know.
Bring
you don't
them
care about the
home.
hostages. If you
I
cared
love
about
how
the
you're
hostages,
condemning
you would
New
be
York.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, do you see exactly what I'm saying here? Like, I just want to make sure, like, y'all, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's so bad.
Screaming at Benjamin Netanyahu.
Your own terrorism
Benjamin
on live
Netanyahu
television.
is the hostage
you
killer.
are exposing.
Benjamin Netanyahu has killed more hostages than
Hamas.
Hamas.
What do you think you're achieving here?
Talking about?
Not only oppressing the Palestinian people, but for spreading terrorism. I don't see your outrage at Hamas. Israel gave Gaza back in 2005,
I would like to, please.
and Hamas has turned
Can you
this
both,
into a
please?
terrorist haven.
Emily and Hassan, can you please show some courtesy
Hamas
to the
is
other
the lesser
panelists?
evil in comparison to Israel.
Can you please stop talking, both of you, and let the other two panelists have a
You want
say?
a soundbite, Piers? I'll give you a
them some
soundbite.
courtesy, please. Some courtesy for your co-panelists here. Now, Esther, this is one of the problems I have with this whole debate, is that increasingly it just descends into a screaming match between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis.
And the biggest losers are the victims of this war. 33,000 dead Palestinians, over 1,500 dead Israelis. These are the biggest victims of this, because you're shouting at each other and nothing is getting, like, you're completely, forget having no courtesy for us, you're completely disrespecting actual victims of this conflict, which, by the way, didn't happen in a vacuum. And I think that's the most important thing to say about this. None of this happened in a vacuum. Of course, October...
She's completely right. Yeah, she's totally right.
October the 7th was an atrocity, and it was completely unjustified. There was no justification for butchering people in the way that they did. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of the people that live in Gaza weren't even born at the time that Hamas came in power. So I really I despise this, you're a terrorist sympathizer, you're a genocide supporter, all of this, when really the people that we should be talking about...
I think I completely agree with her. Like, this is, how can one person be so based? It's like the emotionally elevated rhetoric that's so high and so extreme that, like if you assume that somebody is like a genocider or, you know, something like that, like, how can you really have a dialogue with that person? It's just common sense. Yeah, it's just common sense. But that's why nobody's doing it.
Deserve better.
Okay, James, on the wider point of these protests...
Well, I couldn't get to that part because I wanted to describe what the apartheid is, and Emily cut in immediately to chirp about some random shit.
Okay, you were both abusing each other. It was very unsatisfying.
It was very clear.
Let me ask James. James, on the protests...
Yeah, dude.
On the protests, look, I believe in the right to protest. That's an absolute bedrock of any democracy. But I don't believe in the right to support terror groups publicly or to chant about support for Hamas or to chant about intifada, which is a violent act.
I worry about saying that you can't support terror groups because who decides what's a terror group? You know, like, what if they made people that were like 4chan users a terror group? Or something like that. I don't trust any organization to be able to accurately say what a terror group is. They low-key are, though? Yeah, no, I know. I think everybody agrees, right? Everybody agrees that Hamas is pretty much a terror group. Like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, these are all terror groups, right? But I'm talking about, like, it being against the law to support it. That worries me. And I think that my concern is very valid. Remember the 2016 election? The 2020 election? This is legit. It's very easily that could happen.
Rising. Where's the line for you with these?
I agree. I think we have to condemn what Hamas did, and I don't think the words that have been used so far have been strong enough. I mean, it was the worst thing we've seen in a very long time. It was disgusting. appalling, awful for
Yep,
everyone
true.
involved. I also have a lot of sympathy, if not, I can't think of a bigger word, for the people of Gaza. It's awful, and I will agree with you. I do want a free Palestine, and I also want a free and successful Israel, but I don't want innocent people murdered. So yeah, you can't go to a protest and start shouting about support for Hamas. That's insane.
Isn't it ironic that something like this has become a haven for like the mentally unwell? You're talking about something as serious as a conflict in Israel and Gaza, and for some reason you have really uneducated people that are clearly 20 years ago would have been in an asylum supporting this openly, not.
Yep. Fucking yep. That's a fact. Just so paced, yes.
Not even knowing the conflict, not even knowing the context of what they're supporting. And for some reason, we even give it airtime. That's what upsets me.
But
These people don't deserve airtime.
Right? Everyone is so triggered on both sides, on all sides, and rightly so, because a lot of terrible stuff has happened. So that's where the emotion is coming from.
It's not rightfully so. The moment that you can't control your emotions and then your emotions lead to bad actions that hurt other people, it's your fault. There's really no fine print to that at all. And anybody that doesn't believe that hasn't been on the receiving end of it. The people that believe that it's okay to act that way are people who are either acting that way at the current time or have never been a victim to it. The truth is that no, it's not okay. Emotions
really,
aren't like
the same thing, and that
it's
is
not
for
a
innocent
pardon,
people to
you know?
not be murdered or slain in the streets.
Right. I mean, look, Hassan.
Can I?
But
Hang on, Emily. Please, I'll come to you. Let me just ask Hassan. When you and Emily go at each other like you just did, nobody wins. I mean, no one can really understand a word you're saying because you're shouting over each other.
Yeah.
You end up just calling each other terrorists. There's no.
No, but like it's like what I said. Like I feel like they have to do that because of the way that social media portrays a respectable debate. They'll just wait for the person that they don't like to not talk and then clip that part and be like, wow, I knew they were stupid. And that's it. Public opinion. Yeah, it's like they're not doing this. Like, I think both of them know that this style of conversation is unproductive and bad.
Sensible dialogue here. There's no constructive conversation.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just two implacably opposed sides
I think
abusing each other. Do you understand that?
Yeah, listen, Piers, okay? This is going to always be a very heated discussion.
Yeah.
Okay? Having a conversation about how heated this discussion is utterly unproductive. Every single moment that we use on air, not talking about every single university building being desecrated, destroyed. The fact that we're having this conversation on the eve of hundreds of mass.
I don't really give a fuck about what Palestine's problems are or Israel's problems are, but if somebody is blocking the road, I do care. And I will tell you also that if they are blocking the road and I'm trying to get through the road, I will reflexively be against them. Like, what are you for? Okay, let's vote against it. Because people don't have that right. I don't think that they do. And the law agrees with me, and I think most normal people agree with me. I get that the issues are important, but this is, again, the problem that I think people have, is that they think that because they are so outraged about the way something is happening in the world, that they have the moral mandate to break the law and to hurt other people that really aren't even involved with it. This is an extremely toxic mindset, and I think that it's been going on now for like almost 10 years.
Graves being unearthed right now in many different parts of Gaza around hospitals that Israel had laid siege to is disgusting. I agree. I came on here, as I have done last time as well, and as I will probably do in the future as well, with one simple goal in mind, which is
somebody says if it's not disruptive, it's ignored. If it is disruptive, it's also bad. Like, just because somebody is giving you attention doesn't mean that you're right. I understand that you think that you have the right to do that, but What if everybody else disagrees with you? What gives you the unique moral authority to break the law because of what you believe in? What gives you the right to do that? Well, you don't have that right. So don't be surprised whenever people get you out of the fucking road and arrest you. It's narcissistic and entitled. That's insane. It's like these people think that the world revolves around their issue. There's thousands of issues in the world. Is Israel-Palestine the only place where bad things are happening? Look at Ukraine. No. What if everybody acted that way? The world would be chaos. You can't realistically act that way. It doesn't matter what you think is effective or not. Just because something, you don't have the right to make an effective protest based off of the rules that you invent. That's insane. If it's not disruptive, then nobody is going to care about it. Well, if nobody cares about it, maybe you should think about the reason why that is.
To address all of the misinformation that surrounds stuff like this. As far as the crackhead Barbie thing goes, yeah, she's a random TikTok influencer who gives a shit about what she has to say. She's obviously doing it for clout. But the students over at Columbia, okay, the students that I have talked to at the Columbia University Apartheid Divest group, the students that I've talked to from Jewish Voice for Peace.
All right, Emily, let me just ask you.
Just cut them off. Yep, there it is. Why is it our business? What are your thoughts on civil rights? People always try to bring up civil rights. This isn't civil rights. Get out of the road. Stop occupying private businesses. Get out of the road. There's no nuance to this at all. Get out of the road, stop breaking the law, and that's it. I don't care what your reason is. It's civil disobedience? No, it's not. Civil disobedience? No. You're standing in the road, making it harder for ambulances to go through the road. No, this is not justifiable. I don't care what your rationalizations for the Revolutionary War and, oh, we're revolutionaries, or it's like civil rights. It doesn't matter. Get out of the road. Stop breaking the law. Stop destroying property. And that's it. And I think that I speak for a lot of people here that whenever I see a person doing that, I want them removed. I don't care what their reasoning is. I don't care why they think they have the authority to do this. It doesn't matter to me. It has nothing to do with this. How many of you guys agree with that? Everybody, yeah. And I think also a lot of people that have these, like these freedom fighter delusions, they don't really believe these things. I don't think that anybody almost actually believes these things. Because if it was your property being destroyed, if it was your house being damaged, if it was your work that you are now late to because of these things, you would be very angry and very upset. And you would want it stopped. They're LARPing. Yes, they're completely LARPing. And if this was actually, if they had to be a victim of it, they would immediately be crying about it and complaining. You want to hear a good example? The Canada truck protests. The same people that were making these same arguments were doing the exact opposite. There's no actual principle to this at all. And again, I think that the best way that you can look at is an idea a good idea or a bad idea is that if everybody does this thing, would the world be able to function? And the truth is that if every single time that somebody thought that what they believe in is bad, and they thought that gave them the moral authority to protest and break the law, everything would be chaos. You could not exist in a society like that. So stop doing it. It's that simple. What do you do whenever voting doesn't matter and the government doesn't care? What do you do whenever you lose the vote? Maybe voting doesn't matter because people don't care about your issue enough. And because people don't care about your issue, that doesn't give you the right to be annoying and to disrupt their lives and destroy property in the hopes that maybe they might care about your issue afterwards. That's not the way it works. This is so reductive and oversimplifying. No, it's not. And also, it is reductive, and it actually, you know what? It is. Are you breaking the law? Yes. Are you blocking the roads? Yes. Okay, then you're wrong. Did you have a permit? No. Okay, then you're wrong. It's that simple. Stop doing it. That's it. A lot of people say voting doesn't work because they lose votes. That's what happens, guys. Imagine what would happen if every single time an election happened or something gets passed or doesn't get passed, and the people that, well, I guess I say, imagine what happens. Look at January 6th. Imagine if that happened after every single election or every single vote. This would be insane. The world would be burning in hell. Yes, it's like nobody thinks about this at all. People could literally lose their livelihoods from being late to work. Some companies are not understanding. We weren't able to vote whether we wanted more tax dollars or guns to go to Israel or Ukraine, though. But you voted on the people who voted on it, though. You sure did.
The same thing I asked Hasan. When you guys scream at each other...
I didn't? Well, then we'll vote next time. Vote next time and get out of the road. That way you won't have to worry about it. Yeah, spend less time in the middle of the road, spend more time at the ballot box, and maybe you won't have that problem.
Call each other terrorists. It doesn't obviously achieve anything other than it becomes unintelligible to the audience. You know, is there not a better way we can have this conversation?
Funnily enough, correct. And funnily enough, I have the same exact answer as Hasan. My job here is to make sure that I'm debunking false narratives that Hasan is clearly spewing. My job here is to call out hypocrisy. And I just saw another one where he's saying that crackhead Barney, whoever the hell that girl was, is a lunatic, but Aaron Bushnell, who lights himself on fire, is a hero. You can't pick and choose whatever fits your narrative. And
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
I keep on repeating that over and over again because the Palestinian movement will...
This is a crazy thing. People are really fixated on this whole point of a protest is to disrupt. You guys are really fixated on this. I can guarantee you that if conservatives do that, you're going to be crying. You will be. You'll be crying. Or if the Israelis or Jewish people do that, you will be crying so much. You don't really believe this. You only believe it because it serves your interests. It's completely self-referential ethics. The moment that somebody does this and views it and they think that, oh, well, now I'm being disruptive, so it's okay. You're going to lose your fucking mind. That's why it doesn't work. Because it's not their pet issue. Yeah, that's the blunt truth. Look at January 6th. What do you think they thought they were doing? They thought they were doing the same thing that you think you're doing. Look at Charlottesville. Yep, there's another one right there. You will be crying and freaking out about it. It's crazy how little self-awareness people have.
Literally just take what they can get, spew all of the truth into their false narrative, spread misinformation, and then you say that we're the liars. You tell me I'm wearing an IDF dog tag. I'm wearing a bring them home for the hostages that you No, it says bring them home.
You're using the hostages as a simple political tool to make propaganda in the West. It's quite disgusting.
To be fair, hostages are being used as a political tool fundamentally. That's why they're hostages.
What are happening in Israel right now are massive.
Are a political tool.
And those protests.
Yeah.
Why
you are using humans in captivity as a political tool? It's so obvious.
Why, Hasan? Why are you dehumanizing the hostages? Because I have no problem admitting the Palestinians deserve better.
Not.
I feel terrible.
You're using them as a political.
I don't think he's dehumanizing them either, but I think that he's oversimplifying it because they are political tools. That's why they're hostages.
I can say that.
If you cared about the hostages.
Like, you think about why do you have a hostage? You have a hostage for leverage. What are they leveraging? Political things. Okay, well then there. What is a lever? A lever is a tool. I mean, and the tool is used to move politics, so it's a political tool. Like, I mean, I don't know, guys. You know, we get down to basics, and it sure seems pretty simple.
You would be in Tel Aviv right now
using
alongside.
Let me bring in James. Let me bring in James, please. Let me bring in James.
Here they go again.
Sorry, can you please, when I say stop talking, please stop talking. We've got 4 people here. James.
If anyone is using hostages, surely it's Hamas, Hasan. How can you say that? How can you use that argument? That's a crazy thing to say. It's Hamas.
I also think that Hamas probably is using hostages inside of Palestine, and they're probably using people by associating closer to them as civilians to make it less likely that they'll get attacked. I think they're doing that. Why are they doing that? Because it works, and it makes them look more sympathetic. It just makes sense. No shit, yeah. And like, well, the point that I'm making is like a lot of the Palestinian people that are helping Hamas are doing it because if they don't help Hamas, Hamas might kill them. That's it's very easy to say like, oh, well, I would tell them no. But like whenever you have like 5 dudes show up at your house and they all have like, fucking armor on and AK-47s, are you really not going to try to help them? Come on. Think about it. Not in this case, my man. Just say no, easy. What the fuck am I saying? Do I have more retards that are having their dogma being shattered right now? Is this your NPC programming? Is it shattering? Think about it just for a minute, okay? You have a massive terrorist group that has no problem going around and killing other civilians. And they show up to your house or to your community and they say, help us. Again, it's very easy for you to say, oh, I would tell them no. But I think that if it was your family in that house, you wouldn't be doing that. Because I think a lot of the people are victims of this, even in Palestine. They're victims of their own extremism. Let's be honest, they're very willing to do more than killing others. Things can't be said on Twitch as well. Absolutely. 100%. It's crazy how upsetting this must be for some people to have their programming shattered. But if you just think about this like a logical, reasonable person, you would see that it's obviously true. 100% makes so much sense. It makes obvious sense. Of course. You're playing wrong on this take? How am I wrong? You can't reason people out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. I think that's what's happening. I think I'm making a mistake right now. I am trying to reason people out of a position that they did not reason themselves into. Because they think they have a moral mandate. They have an emotional appeal. That's what they're thinking about. They're thinking with their feelings and not with their brain. Just assuming? I'm just assuming. You're right. I am just assuming. I am. And I think my assumption is right.
Have taken these people from their homes,
tens of thousands of people in Israel. There are currently tens of thousands of Israeli citizens right now in the streets of Israel, in the streets of Tel Aviv, outside of Benjamin Netanyahu's house, protesting every single day. What are they protesting? They're protesting for Benjamin Netanyahu to facilitate a ceasefire with Hamas so that they can actually bring the hostages home. That is precisely the number one goal.
Well, if that's the goal, then they're being used as a political tool, right? I mean, I would say that they are.
Of the family members of the hostages.
Who
and
is
if
using
anyone
the hostages?
on this panel was being even a little bit honest, they would recognize the reality that, listen, just listen.
You didn't listen to my question.
Listen to what I'm saying, and you will understand, perhaps, what I'm trying to imply here.
That's very patronizing.
Utilizing the hostages. Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the fuck you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit. Where you're talking about how.
I mean, I don't know really. I mean, like Hassan's in California. I mean, neither of us, nobody here, maybe a few people in chat, right, are actually in Palestine. But I'm pretty sure everybody watching this is really just kind of like, they should do this, they should do that.
You want to fucking free Palestine, but also simultaneously, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything, okay? I don't give a shit about what your perspective is.
I agree. Hassan doesn't like what you have to say, so you're wrong. It's Hassan's way or the highway.
I mean, you are. There is no both sides on a genocide. Is there a both sides of a genocide? There is no both sides.
Well, the thing is, it's interesting you should mention the hostages.
This is the problem, is that I think that, again, people use like extremely like elevated language because, like, again, I guarantee you that there are Israelis who think that they are being genocided too. Absolutely. So it's like you can't have a conversation whenever you begin the conversation with the concept that you can't have a conversation. But they're wrong. See, you don't understand, and this is the problem that a lot of you guys have. You cannot think about things from any other perspective other than your own. You need to stop thinking about it from your perspective. Stop thinking about it from the perspective of what you believe and start thinking about it from the perspective of another person. That's the issue. I understand. I don't think that Israelis are really getting genocided. No. But if Israelis feel like they are, and I think they fucking do, absolutely. And the point isn't that they are or they aren't. The point is that whenever you emotionally escalate a topic to the point where any conversation about it is bad, you're never going to solve a problem. You can never do anything there. You're sick, dude, not gonna lie. What is this? What is this? Oh, I see. It's their own country. How are they going to feel fear? You know what? I bet people use that as an argument against the amendment against that in our Constitution. I do. I bet they use that as an argument. That's so true. It's sad. It really is. Was that even supposed to make sense? No, of course not. You could say that you're hijacking the topic, appealing to such emotion. Yeah, I think so. And so, like, the problem is that whenever you emotionally escalate things to the point where they can't be discussed, then you can't reason them and figure anything out. Asman, you're missing the whole point. It's not about feelings. A real tangible genocide is happening using American money. That's why they're protesting. I don't have a problem with protesting. Nobody had a problem with that. But my point is that whenever you say that you can't have a conversation about it, and because you've defined it this way and you think this, then everybody else has to think like you. Not everybody thinks it's a genocide. They don't. You need to have a conversation. You can't just say something and then everybody has to believe it. That's not the way the world works. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Oh, fuck. I don't even know what to do. It's like, how do you deprogram somebody from that mindset? I really, like, how do you even do that? You can't? I don't think you even can. You can't cure brain rot? Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, guys, but like this is upsetting. This is worried. This is worrisome. You think it's a random guy calling it genocide? It's the international instances. I just, again, you're not seeing it from anybody else's perspective other than your own. Empathy is a real thing. I think that most people don't have people have empathy, but they only have one-sided empathy. They want everybody else to understand their motives and their reasoning, but they refuse to see anybody else's motives and reasoning through anything other than their lens. Empathy is weaponized. Well, it's completely one-sided.
They want Jewish genocide, but that's okay. But Jewish genocide is okay.
If you're talking about the well-being of the if you're talking about the well-being of the hostages, what sense did it make for the IDF to flatten about 70% of Gaza?
And by the way, I do think that if you let them go, it would be a genocide either way. The only time this war is going to be over is whenever one side doesn't exist anymore. There's never going to be peace. They're never going to work it out. There might be a period of time where they're not actively killing each other. But after that period of time, they will start killing each other again. That's it. Absolutely wrong. You're just guessing. Well, I have about 2,000 to 3,000 years of precedent for that. I think that's pretty substantial.
Because I completely agree. Bring the hostages home. If you look at Gaza, the topography of Gaza right now, it looks like a pancake. So I'm sorry, this whole argument of Hamas using them as human tools, fine, but the IDF has also been using it to continue that campaign. If you were told that, if God forbid, if your
I do think, by the way, Hamas is using their own people as human shields. I think they're 100% doing it.
Was one of the hostages, and you saw what's happening right now. And I met someone whose mother is a hostage, and he said he didn't want his mother and her being taken to be used in the name of violence. Right now, he's sitting at home wondering, okay, what is the logic of trying to bring my mother home when you flattened Gaza? Please explain that to us.
So, can I pose a question
you might very well pull those hostages from under.
Okay, let Emily respond to that.
Everyone wants to criticize the IDF's response, but nobody wants to tell me what should Israel be doing to retaliate October 7th, eradicate Hamas from preventing another October 7th, and bring the hostages home.
I have an idea.
Do you have a solution?
I have an idea. Do not flatten Gaza and potentially pull your own hostages up from under.
She's right, but the truth is that if Palestine had done that to China, Palestine wouldn't exist right now. And if Palestine had done that to America, Palestine would not exist right now. It's very important to keep that in mind.
From under the rubble, like have been done with thousands of Palestinians. That's a good idea. Yeah. Have you found any of them under the rubble?
So you're saying that you don't have an answer.
That is the answer.
So you
don't kill your own hostages.
But you're quick to condemn the IDF, but you don't have an answer.
How about not killing the hostages?
Very interesting.
I have an answer.
Thank you for proving my point.
It's called the dissolution of the apartheid regime. That's what it's called. Dissolve the apartheid regime.
So what would you like to see happen,
Palestinians
Hasan?
breathing room. Do you not understand the English language? Dissolve the apartheid regime.
You need a Xanax, first of all. You need a Xanax. Okay, so should Israel do to the West Bank what they did to
Palestinians have been
Gaza?
ruthlessly slaughtered by the Israeli
Should Israel
state.
give
It makes
back
me a
the
little
land so that
upset
it can
when
turn
someone
into
is
another
defending that.
Gaza? Is that what you'd like to see? Another terrorist haven launching rockets all day instead of turning into Singapore? Because that's what they did in 2005.
Wait, hold on.
Well, you have to look at it like, I think if you look at it from the perspective of somebody who's like in Israel, they're going to want their government to retaliate to people who they think attack them for no reason. Like for example, like if that happened here in the U.S., like, let's say people from Mexico, for example, like came over to the U.S. and did like a coordinated attack on a place here in America. Americans would absolutely, 9/11 is the big example, right? After 9/11, people wanted to just bomb everywhere in the Middle East. Like, a lot of people are probably a little bit younger, and so they might not remember this very well. But after 9/11 happened, like everybody, bro, it was like Helldivers 2. Everybody wanted to join the fucking the army. People wanted to go over to the Middle East and kill everybody. And they didn't care whether they were bombing kids or civilians or Al-Qaeda. Just kill all of them. It went like that for like 6 years. That was crazy. It was. And so we can all criticize Israel's actions. But keep in mind that if this happened to us, we would do way worse than Israel. And eventually, sometime it will. And you'll see it happen again. And that's okay. Well, this is kind of like the problem, right? So whenever the population elects things democratically, and then the population puts pressure on the government to do something, what should the government do? How do you handle that? Because like these people, like it's not like nobody wanted this. A lot of people wanted this. There's this idea that the government is doing it and the people don't like it. No, there were a lot of people here in the U.S. that wanted that to happen after 9/11. I think you're misremembering about war sentiment post 9/11. Oh, I'm not. Yeah, like, do you guys remember that? Like, am I crazy? Because like, oh, man, that's probably a bad question. Like, I remember this happening a lot. Yeah, so the people are complicit? Well, they're not complicit. They are actively promoting it. They want it to happen. Not everybody, but a lot of them did. And enough of them wanted it to happen for it to have fucking happened in a lot of cases. And if you think that it wasn't bad, it was so pervasively bad that I bet almost any guy that was Arab that grew up in America, that's like around my age, probably got called out and had people get mad at him. Like, they had that happen to them on a very personal level. And I think that if that's happening, Sikhs did as well. Yeah, exactly. Wasn't Esfan talking about that? Yeah, sure. That, as an example. Happened in Europe too? Yeah. So, like, how is it that every single person, you know, we're all agreeing with this, but the idea that this never manifests into anything else? I mean, come on. Just think about it.
Singapore, the
billions
West
of
Bank.
dollars in
Hold
aid
on,
they
is the
turned
West
into
Bank
building
Singapore?
tunnels. Is that what you like to
Wait.
see?
Bombing,
I don't know.
who's
Have I
bombing
gone
Singapore
deaf?
every day?
Sorry,
What,
Emily, is the
Singapore
West
an
Bank
open-air
supposed to be
prison?
Singapore?
What are you talking about?
Is the West Bank supposed to
The
be
West
Singapore?
The West Bank has a port. They can import and export. Israel gave them a great piece of land. They received billions of dollars in aid, not only from
Israel
the
gave
U.S.,
them a great
but
piece of
Israel
land?
gave. Are you
No.
mad? They had a chance to rebuild, but they spent the last 15 plus years crying that they don't have enough
Okay. The
land
West Bank
because there
is
is never
Singapore.
enough land for them instead of rebuilding. But that's okay.
Uh-oh.
Build terrorist tunnels. Don't build hotels and don't rebuild
Israel
civilization.
has
Just build
not
terrorist
allowed
tunnels to keep hostages
Palestinians
in.
to have a nation state that they deserve by international law since the inception of the Israeli nation state. What you are saying is insane to me. The fact that you brought up the last 15 years as Palestinians crying is disgusting.
Oh, I have one more question.
You are a disgusting
I think that was a disgusting thing to say, to be fair.
monster
One more question.
who thinks
One more
that
question.
not offering contiguity
Yeah.
to the Palestinians in the form of a state, which is under international law, is just simply Palestinian
I have one more
crying.
question.
Okay?
This
problem
West
is Palestinians
Bank
don't
Singapore.
want a two-state
Hold on.
solution.
This
they want
West
a
Bank
one-state
Singapore.
solution that eradicates the Israelis, which is not an option.
Fine. This West Bank
You're wrong.
Singapore, what place
You're wrong.
does the settlements play in that? How? Please paint a picture of how the West Bank of Singapore, or whatever, Singapore of the West Bank, how does this illegal settlements fit into
Ma'am,
that?
I think you're completely missing the picture.
Just explain to me
Israel
how the
wanted to
settlements
give
fit into
them
that picture.
a piece of land. I'm explaining it.
Okay, I'm listening.
The picture is they got a great piece of land to turn into society. Instead
Who
of turning
got
it
the
into
land?
civilized society,
Who did?
Israel gave the land to Gaza. They
So then why
withdrew.
the
They
Israeli
removed
settlers?
It's not
Israelis
Israel's
from
land
their
to give.
homes.
But
It's
then
not
why
Israel's
are
land to
Israeli
give.
settlers
It is
then?
not Israel's land to
2005.
give.
There are no Jews or Israelis. There are no settlements in Gaza.
In the West
they
Bank.
gave it to
in the West Bank.
Palestinians.
In the West Bank.
I'm speaking about Gaza, and
Oh,
now
I'm
you're
asking
changing
about
the
West
narrative.
Bank because I was interested
I'm
in knowing about
showing
Singapore.
I'm
I
telling.
think there's a big problem with like the way that people consider like owning land and not owning land. Because like, for example, in America, we did not colonize America. Like, Americans and the Spanish conquered it. And they killed everybody. And I think that a lot of people have a really big, hard time reconciling that. That's why we have it. It's because, and not everybody, no, you're right. We didn't get every single one of them, but we got a lot. Bad example? No, it's not. It's like the entire idea of ownership, like nobody owns anything, right? The only way that you own something is if other people tell you that you own it. And a more powerful entity, or you are more powerful than the person who says that you don't. So if, like, for example, you own your house, right? Well, no, not anymore, right? But back in the day, you would own your house. Except if the government said they needed to build a road, and then they just give you money for your house, and then they bulldoze your road. It's called eminent domain. Because the government is the one that defines ownership. And there is no inherent private property. So what happens is that I think a lot of people nowadays have a really hard time with the truth that the only people that own the land are the people that can kill the other people who say that they don't own it. That's always the way it's been, and that's always going to be the way it is. That's it.
You that if Israel pulls out completely from the West Bank, if Israel pulls out from the West Bank, you can bet your ass it turns into the next Gaza. The world does not need two Gazas because one Gaza has already caused enough damage. If, however, Gaza decides to demand
every
that
argument
Hamas
with Israel
removes
is
themselves
about some
from power,
hypothetical.
and they can have democracy.
Israel has to do a
then yes,
genocide
there's
because if
potential for
Israel doesn't do a
two-state
genocide,
solution.
then the Gaza
There's no
sounds a bit
genocide.
like
The
you're
only
victim
genocide
blaming
is the
Palestinians
Hamas
in
charter that
Gaza.
wants to
cannot
eradicate
do
the Jews.
defensive genocide.
You know, it's interesting the word genocide.
There's no
Because,
genocide.
hang on, it's interesting the
There is
word.
no
It's interesting.
genocide
Hang
happening.
on,
It's just a
Israel is
buzzword.
doing
I would love to get a word in,
Allow it.
please. Interesting the word genocide because I've listened to all this fractious debate, everyone talking over
Oh,
each other.
boy.
The truth is that actually only one side is publicly said that they wish to pursue a genocide, and that is Hamas. Hamas, after October the 7th, through their official spokesman on camera, said they wanted to do it again and again and again. That is the purest articulation of a genocide imaginable.
And I think this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video about how I think that people that are in support of like Palestine, I think they do themselves a huge disservice by not just immediately condemning this. Because if they said that, it's obviously really bad. Like, that's all there is to it. It's really bad in the same way that anything Israel does that's similar to that is really bad. And, like, what I think is happening is that I think that it's alienating a lot of people in the middle whenever they see somebody not immediately condemning it. Because, like, to me, like, as, like, just a, like, I know a bit about this. I'm not as, I don't know as much about it as Hasan does, right? But, like, I know a bit about it. The moment that I hear that, I'm like, whoa, why are you not just immediately, like, because here's a good way to look at it, right? Have you ever bought or sold something illegally? How many of you guys have ever bought or sold something illegally? Yeah, sure. Have you ever had the time where something was wrong, at least a little bit, and it was just like it totally threw you off and it made you completely not trust that person at all? Because I've had that happen. I have. And I think that's what's happening. Is because as soon as that, like, it's like something is sus. Something is up. Sketchy. Yeah, exactly.
One thing I never hear from the pro-Palestinian side is
really think
what Israel was
Piers,
actually...
Piers,
Hang on.
Piers,
No, don't
Piers.
interrupt me.
So one
I haven't
Hamas
asked you a
official,
question yet.
One Hamas guy.
Sorry, I
But
need to
that's
ask you a
ridiculous.
question.
You're being a ridiculous person.
I'm not
You're being a
ridiculous
ridiculous person.
I'm just saying, nobody ever
Because
tells
how
me...
many Israeli officials, even on your show, have said we should keep doing what we have been doing to Gaza over and over again? How does that not register in the same genocidal intent? If you think what that dude was saying, which was, by the way, ridiculous what he was saying, the Hamas official was saying, is that we're going to do October 7th over and over again.
But he said it.
We are justified in doing it over and over again. I find that to be abhorrent. However, what you fail to recognize is that's the genocide.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad he's saying it. Great. Yep, there we go. He's right.
Intent, but not Amalek. That's the genocidal intent, but not saying we are fighting human animals. And that's why we have to cut off their food, their water, and their electricity. That was Defense Minister Yoav Gallant
There we
who said
go with
that.
the lies
Benjamin
again.
Netanyahu
You're saying
has
Israel
routinely
cuts
talked
off their
about this over and over
electricity.
again.
They don't even
Israeli
provide
interior
their
security-
electricity.
Israeli,
You're saying they cut off their water. They don't
Israeli
cut off their water.
politicians.
You are
Israeli,
spewing lies on
can
national
you stop?
television.
Can you? I'm
I
talking.
think Sarah, hang on.
No, because I'm not
Again,
gonna
you're
stop. I'm
talking
not gonna
over
let you
each
spew
other.
lies.
Some of
I'm
the
sorry,
some of the
name me another
comments.
army that
What an annoying person. Oh my God. Jesus. She's so fucking obnoxious.
No doubt,
aid
Emily,
the people they're at war with.
some of the
Only
comments-
Israel.
some of the-
Piers,
Israel is
no, Piers,
All
I'm not
right.
letting him
the
spew
most
misinformation.
caring
I'm not
country
letting
on
him
the
spew
planet.
lies on
Misinformation.
television.
Start it again.
This is pointless. We're getting
No,
nowhere.
because
But
he's
thank
spewing
you.
Did Yoav Gallant
misinformation.
not say that?
Israel's cutting off electricity,
Okay.
water, and aid. Just
We're getting-
Did
spewing
Defense
lies. I'm not
Minister
gonna let
Yoav
you do it.
Gallant say we are fighting human animals or not? Answer that question. Did Defense Minister
And
Yoav
she's making them look like psychos too. In the same way that I was talking about like Hasan not condemning it immediately, now she's doing the exact same thing.
Yes,
Gallant
yes,
say
yes.
we are
Hamas
fighting
is
human
human
animals and
animals.
we have to cut off their electricity,
Correct.
cut off their food, cut off
Correct.
their water.
Okay.
Yeah, the slight.
You know what? I'm
Israel,
going to cut
Israel
off. I'm
provides
going to cut off this
79%
debate.
of their electricity. The rest is Hamas.
I'm going to cut off the
That's
debate
not
because
Israel.
we're getting
Israel
absolutely
provides-
nowhere. But I appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you very much indeed.
That's it. It's over. Holy shit. Wow. What a great show. Oh my fucking God. She just came out and said they're human animals? Well, I think that the reality is most people would agree that terrorists are fucking animals, right? Well, literally and metaphorically in a lot of cases. And so what are you going to do about that, though? Like, if you cut off the water and the electricity to everyone, then you're not just hurting the terrorists, you're hurting everybody. And I think the problem is, like, if they could somehow, like, only affect the terrorists, I think everybody would agree with it, right? And so, like, the conversation is about, like, do the means justify the ends? Or the ends justify the means, I guess, better way to say it. Yeah. Piers Morgan, tweet towards Hasan. Oh, boy. And that shit radicalizes normal people? It does. I think it does. And I feel like that's, like, a big problem that a lot of these things have, is because every single time that a big thing like this happens, people treat it like it's a sports game. And they don't want to look at... I feel like one thing that, like, always really kind of sets me off, and it not really sets me off, that's a bad way to say it. One thing that always really puts me on edge is whenever I see people who are trying to gloss over the bad actions of the people that are, quote, on their side. Whenever I see that happen, I immediately distrust them. Because, like, these people are not trying to tell the truth, and they are dishonest. I'll link you guys a video. Yeah, this is a great video. I love this. Holy fuck. The commentary is that all Palestinians are human animals, not just the terrorists. It's gross pro-genocide rhetoric, and it's honestly representation of their intentions. Yeah, and I understand that. And I think that the way that she communicated that was really bad. Absolutely. And it's like, if you hear somebody say that, that's awful. You know, Hasan's condemned October 7th 100 times. The other side will always bring it up every time, so it doesn't matter how many times he condemns it. They don't care. It's their only argument. Yeah, I agree. I get that. And I think that, again, I've seen him condemn it as well. I just think that, like for example, whenever he was talking about, like, oh, the American Revolution and stuff like that, you know, I feel like if Americans had gone over to England and killed random civilians in England, I don't think that even now we would consider that a good thing. I don't. I think that would be considered bad even now. Just run my last passage? Yeah. They never condemned Israel violating international law. That's because, like, this is my opinion, okay? There's no such thing as international law, okay? The moment that a country that you can't hold accountable breaks one of those laws, then it's gone. Who made the law? Other countries. Okay, so then it's that country's law. There's no such thing. Yeah, it's all just bullshit. There are international agreements and conventions, but there are no laws. Yeah. And the moment that a country decides to break one of those laws and that you can't hold that country accountable, there's nothing you can do about it. What are they going to do? People want to put Putin on trial for breaking international law as if that's ever going to happen? I think that's a great example. It will never happen because he's above the law. That's the truth. Like, yeah, he is. That's just the way it is. Sanctions? Oh, yeah, you can sanction them and you can do everything like that. But and there are ways that you can react to it, but you can't really make it stop happening unless you bomb them. The U.S. Navy captain pirating Morocco's military ships, UK, during American Revolution. Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, like, it was very complex. But all I'm saying is, like, I personally think it's really cool that Hasan goes on the show and, like, other people, like, you know, they've had other streamers on the show on, like, television. I think it's pretty cool that this happens. It's awesome. Agreed? Yeah. It's pretty funny to see it happen. This is Israeli. The interview was upsetting to see. Such an extent, I think I'm quitting my job and becoming a streamer to represent the other side. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I'll read a few comments and then we'll move on to something else. It's important to still condemn and build support through bad things, though. Yeah, I think so, too. It is. With the conversations. Yeah, I try to look at things. Here's the thing, right? I try to look at things as rationally as possible. Like, you guys might not really be able to tell this, but, like, I'm not a very emotional person. And that's a good and a bad thing for me. But one way that it is a good thing is that I can look at situations and I don't really get invested in them. I don't really care a lot about them. Like, what happens on the other side of the world to me, I could really care less. It's not that big of a deal. So I don't feel like I have, like, a need to, like, push one side or to, like, have some kind of, like, viewpoint or to say a certain type of thing. And that's why I like talking about this stuff, because I feel like almost everybody else who talks about it is, like, so emotionally invested into it that they can't look at it from any sort of a realistic perspective. They can't see it from any perspective outside of what their own is. Are you emotionally invested in anything? Sure, but, mainly only things that directly affect me. I try not to emotionally invest myself into anything other than things that are directly involved with me. Yeah, you see the British police psychologist nurse show up to Christian's home for publicly saying you disagreed with some view? No, I didn't see that. I mean, like, again, that's in Britain. They don't have freedom of speech over there. Every day I thank God I'm an American. You know? Like, I would never want to live there.